Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We're going to continue on with this week's theme of experimental music, checking out a band called Your Arms Are My Cocoon, which I think is a beautiful idea. I see their Spotify bio simply says small songs for big hearts, less than three, and I do think that's appropriate given the fact this track is less than 3 minutes long. I'm curious what we're going to end up seeing within it. My hair is ridiculous today. I'm sorry. I was just trying to play it off, uh, but it just did not. The whole headset thing was. It became a bit more effortful than effortless. Anyways, we're digging into Your Arms Are My Cocoon. I'm curious how much experimentation we can hear within less than 3 minutes. So, without further ado, let's dive into this and see what they're bringing to the table with the track Illinois, Alberta. Oh man.
I think back to those times, which now seem so distant. You know, they were like over a decade ago. Yeah. And like, I'm just so happy now, like all the fucking time, because like I know what it's like to be sad. You know, and like.
Those were definitely Smash Brothers sound effects there behind what he was talking about, right? I heard Ness specifically. Am I wrong with that? Okay. I don't even know where to start with this. It's it's an interesting combination of sounds, I think. We combine sort of the bright and positive aspects of indie rock, math rock. Primarily the guitar work, the dual guitar work that we see, bringing these brighter sounds and mathy exploration of time. If my counting is correct, our opening section was 3 bars of 4/4 and then a bar of 11/4, or however you want to break that up. Our phrasing feels like it's three groups of three and then a group of 11 that just sort of makes the whole thing feel like it continues to last way longer than it should. And it's always interesting when we get to that final grouping of 11, and I know at this point I'm like I know this goes on for a while. I'm ready for it this time, and even like the 8th, the ninth, the 10th time we get through this phrase and we get through the initial 3 bars, and then I'm counting one, two, okay. Wow, they're still going. Okay. Geez, hell, oh yeah, 11. That's right. Like I know this, but the section still just seems to drag and drag and drag, and it's a bizarre little element. Even when I know what's happening, it still feels like it's too long. It's always longer than I expect. Even when I know exactly what to expect empirically, I know how long this is, and yet it always seems longer. It's paired with rather muted guitar work harmonically. I wouldn't say that there's a lot of interesting or spicy ideas going on here. It's following a pretty traditional harmonic pattern, exploring some brighter sounds, and I think one more negative aspect, which I don't really want to read as bittersweet, it just is a bit of tension to lead us to our resolution so that the chord progression itself feels complete. Now it's paired with screaming, distant screaming, even. And I want to save the distant for something else, but I do want to bring it up real quick right here because I think it is important to this aspect. The vocals just feel very far away from us. It creates I think it creates an element of volume. Because as loud as the vocals are compared to the guitar, you can feel how far they are away from you, and you know that the actual screaming is so much louder. And that adds a ton of extra pain to the delivery. It also creates a massive schism. It's immensely separate from what the guitars are doing, creating a more of a beautiful soundscape, and then these agonizing screams alongside it. Eventually, the guitars leave entirely, and we're just left with the anguish of this vocal display. And this brought about one of the most comical elements here. The vocalist seems to quit, waits 2 or 3 bars, comes in with one final outburst. I think there's like 2 lines worth of that, and then silence again. And then a guitar just comes in strumming something beautiful. And it's almost like, well, now for something completely different. And then they just bring in this bright, positive, laid back, chill guitar work. And I don't know, to me, it's one of the most British examples of musical comedy I think I've ever heard. It's almost, it almost disregards it. It creates a levity to that entire situation. I'm curious what the lyrics are. given the schism between the sonic element here, between the vocal delivery and what the guitars are playing, there might even be another level of separation, as the vocals could actually be about something positive and the anguish is subversive. But until we hit the lyrics, I won't know about that. But yeah, if you were wondering why I chuckled there, that's that's why. I could just imagine the guy on the guitar just kind of stop playing, turn and look back at the vocalist, and let him have the little outburst. And it was like, well, now that that's done, dun, 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 just like it almost feels like an interruption to the song. If it weren't for the fact that the guitar played along with the vocals for such a lengthy amount of time, I think I probably would see it as some sort of fourth wall breaking attention grab. If the vocals disrupted the guitars enough to quit early on, and then you just got the outburst, and then it went back to guitar, I think that actually would have been funnier. But I don't know if comedy is the purpose of it. And I know my sense of humor, especially from a musical perspective, is a little odd at times. I know I laugh at a lot of stuff that nobody else seems to. Um, but I don't know. Maybe I've explained myself here in a way that I don't think I typically get a good chance to. I think this one is something people might find comical. Whereas usually I laugh at stuff, I'm like, I'm going to be the only one who gets this, but I'm going to try to explain it anyways. I feel like this one's a bit more palpable, especially if you have or enjoy more of that dry humor. Now, I brought up the distance of the vocals, and there's an emotional element to that, which I already went into, but there's also just a sheer production quality here that I think we have to talk about. I'm not sure what the purpose of it yet is, but this entire thing is just very lo-fi. The guitars are lacking fidelity, they're lacking clarity. The vocals being so distant mean that I'm losing out on key characteristics of them. I get the impression, it is implied that they are louder than they are, but what I hear is still quite quiet. The guitars sound compressed and fuzzy. To put this in visual terms, this feels like a 480p camcorder recording of like a family recording, an event, or maybe your friends were doing a low budget hobby film. You found your parents' camcorder and you went out back and, I don't know, reenacted your favorite movies or something. And like that's what this feels like. There's something very earnest about it. There's something very low budget about it, but it is very much lacking any sort of technical prowess that would give it the extra quality that would be necessary for a larger production. And I think, like I said, it adds an earnesty to it that absolutely works with the vibes. It feels very indie, and I think that indie rock as a whole can get away with this lower quality, lower fidelity sound in a way that not a lot of genres can, excluding black metal, because I think that they get away with it for a completely different reason than indie rock does. I don't think black metal is more earnest when they go lo-fi. That's a different phenomenon we'll explore another day. But it absolutely, I think, in this manner, despite sounding bad, amplifies the emotions of this. It feels honest in a way that I think going for a higher fidelity might have actually been a detriment to this song. And so, from an experimental angle, I think musically, compositionally, this is the most conservative track we've listened to all week. But it really is how they bring the parts together, what parts they're bringing together, the screaming and the clean guitar work. how everything sounds, the way everything's fit together. This is what's experimental about it. Not to mention, it is 3 minutes, and while most popular mainstream music fits verse, chorus, bridge, and occasionally even a final chorus these days into a 3 minute song, this kind of gets rid of that for an A B. You might even want to call the screaming section its own part and call it ABC, but I feel like that is an adaptation or continuation of our A section. It is an idea that's already present there, we just remove one of the layers underneath it. In a way that it almost feels like two sides of a coin. Both sides are quite distinct in what's on them and what goes into molding the shapes themselves, but you really can't get the coin without either one, and I don't think either one of these sides is really that interesting on their own. It's how they're paired with each other, why they're paired with each other, and I think the roller coaster of moving from the more layered mathy guitar writing to the more basic chordal stuff that we get at the end, and the transition between them being the screams that creates an interesting little ride throughout this one. I'm going to see if I can find some lyrics on this, and I guess we'll wrap this one up. Okay. So, something I talk about often-ish is precise, concise, razor-honed experiences. I really love to enjoy things that are nothing but the meat. No fat, no filler. Just do something very well, even if it's just one specific thing. Do it very well, showcase what you've got, and get out. Leave me wanting more. I enjoy short films, I enjoy EPs, I enjoy shorter video games, I enjoy novellas. Let me get in, see something razor honed and fine tuned, and then leave. It is just such a fantastic experience. And this is 100% one of those. And the lyrics tie everything together, taking this from an interesting exercise in my mind to an exemplary work of art. The lyrics are short, 7 lines total, which I'll tell you, I felt like there were a lot more than 7 lines in this, but I want to feel your heart pressed against mine so hard I'm gonna break my chest. Entwine your ribs in mine like strands of hair, like two lonely spines. This person is searching, is wanting so badly any level of intimacy. Certainly a physical intimacy. I want to feel your heart pressed against mine, but also an emotional intimacy, a vulnerability. It says, I will break open my chest. It is just, yes, 100%. The vocabulary here is simple but effective, and when paired with the screaming, you can feel the pain and anguish, the extent of the desire of this person for this type of connection with somebody. But here's where things go a step further. What did I just mention? Actually, this was a few sections ago. What did I mention about the vocals? They're distant. They sound far away from me. They are showcasing that not only does this person want this intimacy, this closeness, this lack of distance between them and someone else, but they can't even get that between the artist and the listener. Which I think is not only really cool on a production level, that the vocalist is so far away from me that there's a distance between me and them, but I think it also speaks to the distance of the art and the listener, the person experiencing the art. That while This person bleeds their heart out on this album and lets us know about this heartbreak. We can find solace in that. We can feel close to them. We have experienced something like this, possibly. Maybe we're just empathetic and can feel for them, but at the end of the day, while we might feel closer to them, they are still lacking that closeness to anyone else. It is just done on so many levels, and it is phenomenal. Not to mention, again, I don't know if this is intentional, but my experience with this is that after this person completely and so alone and vulnerable that the guitar left them, that they scream and just bleed out their heart regarding this feeling they have, the guitar, to me, just says, well, thanks for saying that, and goes back to doing their own thing separate from the vocalist. This song is, on so many levels, the cycle that the vocalist feels themselves in. That no matter what, whether it's their friends, family, fans, anyone around them, they feel a distance between them. They cannot find this closeness, this intimacy of any level, emotional, mental, or physical, with any of the people in their life, and they are dying for something of it so much that they would, on a very straightforward surface level read, rip open their body and to be able to experience this. They would inflict pain on themselves for this. This is interesting because to me it also lines up with how and why sometimes people end up in toxic relationships, because it's a modicum of this feeling, of this being in a relationship. I don't think necessarily that's what they mean there. I still read, I'm going to break my chest. I want this so much, I would do that as a way of saying, I will be completely open with you. But I think that it also kind of leans into the other element of um, pain and toxicity and maybe not having the best relationship with somebody, but at least it is a relationship. Also, it could lean into the idea of losing the sense of self. I will entwine your ribs with mine like two strands of hair. I will become what you need me to. I will lose myself if I have to be a part of you. There is so much desperation in this that I think works on a very negative read of this if you wanted to take it in that direction. I think it also has a very positive read where it is about somebody just looking for something healthy, just wanting this type of intimacy with somebody. And I think the duality of this is really interesting as well. Duality pairs well with the schism between the vocal delivery and the music. So yeah, I mean this just works on so many levels. Nothing overstays its welcome, and as soon as it's done its thing, it wraps it up and heads out the door. This is just razor honed, precise, and so good on so many levels. It does end with some spoken word stuff that, it says, I think back to those times which now seem so distant. They were like over a year ago, sorry, over a decade ago. And I'm just so happy now, like all the time, because I know what it's like to be sad. And according to the annotation, this is a sample from Game Grumps, which I think is a YouTube show, but I could be very wrong on that. But I think that's interesting because it is a bit of a juxtaposition where this person is in a situation where they're just so sad. Depression has taken over, and they're basically out here. What's bartering? No, what is it? Whatever the stage of grief is, where uh, you try to offer up things in order to get a change to the situation. Bartering is the first thing that comes to mind. I think it conveys it properly, but it's not the term I think is usually associated with the phase. And then it's juxtaposed with this person who remembers moments like what the vocalist is in and says, I'm glad I'm past that. It makes me happy to sort of have that perspective. In a sense that maybe some people in my situation wouldn't feel the happiness that I feel, but because I have something to compare it to, this is better than that was. That kind of vibe. Having context for your current state could give you a more positive overview of it. So yeah, just really good on a lot of levels here. I'm going to wrap this up though. Those are my thoughts on Your Arms Are My Cocoons, Illinois, Alberta. Let me know what you thought of this one. Down in the comment section, give me your thoughts, opinions, perspectives, and anything else. Above that, in the description box, you'll find a link to Linktree. It'll take you to this menu right here. You can find links to my music, ways to support the channel, a link to the Discord server, and so much more. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all three of those. That does not wrap it up for today. We do have to check out our final track for experimental music. Otherwise, I'll be back tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC. As usual, we're going to check out some brand new music. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening whenever you choose to watch my videos.